What's up, everyone? Welcome to a Friday episode of the Call Sheet Podcast here at the Fans First Sports Network. Friday means one thing. Hot route conversation with Pez from Pez's Picks. We missed him last week. Our schedules didn't line up with the Steelers game on Thursday night, and so we're back after a week's hiatus. But my man Pez has not been taken off. As a matter of fact, he's been smoking. This man is red hot. And we're going to talk about all about the heater that he's on. Welcome back, Pez.
Appreciate it, Coach. Having a glass of Chianti. I know we're going to be talking about some wise guys today. So in honor of that, you got to have a little Chianti. You know, this is what we drink in the gambling world. This is the business we've chosen, Coach. This is where we're at. This is the business we've chosen, in the words of Hyman Roth in Cuba, telling Michael, this is the business we've chosen. Shouldn't be surprised with these headlines, Coach. I'm not. I mean, nobody should be.
Well, if you don't know what Pez is alluding to, it's quite the scandal. Quite the scandal that's gone down. We're going to get to that in a minute. And that's an appropriate topic because just a couple weeks ago here on the Hot Route, we did an ode to The Sopranos because it was the late James Gandolfini's birthday. And we talked about some of the activities that La Cosa Nostra may be involved in, both in the past and also currently. And here we go with a headline that feels like it is right out of a Hollywood movie. We will get to that in 1 second, though. But Pez, before we do, let me ask you this. It's October. As we record this on Thursday night, we have an NFL game. We've got a college football game. We got the NBA going. You got some NHL for the NHL fans out there. I mean, the World Series is about to get going. Is October the best month on the American sporting calendar?
It is for the sports book, Coach, and for bookies out there. This is it. This is the golden time. People have action going. Like you see it a little bit March Madness, Super Bowl, but nowhere near this level. I mean, there are people betting hockey, which we don't condone in Pez's Picks, Coach. You can't bet hockey. I mean, that's inappropriate. Betting basketball appears at this point to be a different beast, a different one, maybe more than most people knew. We at Pez's Picks knew this, Coach. This isn't new. People have been fixing games for a long time. People have been giving themselves insider advantages, giving themselves help, we call it a little bit. In the poker world, we call it being a mechanic. And but with the football, what more do we need, Coach? Football, legitimate. The NFL runs a legitimate game. It's wise to get your money on legitimate action if you can. But this isn't any different than the stock market. There's insider trading there on a daily basis. The owner of the Amazon company hangs out with the owner of Facebook, right? So, of course they're talking, Coach. Of course they are. This guy's got some AI coming out. Of course they're talking to each other. Martha Stewart went away for this. Is Chauncey Billups and these guys arrested today guilty of similar things? Perhaps it's a little bit dirtier, one could argue. But to me, this is insider trading. It's one of the minefields you got to watch when you're laying action on sports. You're betting on humans. There's a lot of money involved. And you got to watch. This is the game. This is the business we've chosen. When you sit down at a card game, when you place a bet, you got to have in the back of your head a little bit of a warning that you could be getting screwed, right? I mean, this happens. It's happening. It doesn't make it more glamorous or exciting. Maybe, Coach. Maybe it makes it more fun. But at the end of the day, it's wrong, and we don't condone it.
So, yes, to the details that Pez is referencing. The news broke on Thursday that the FBI and the Justice Department, after a operation that was conducted over several years, going as far back as 2019, arrested 34 individuals across multiple states and jurisdictions, reining in a scam that involved tens of millions of dollars. That included the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, the head coach, Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, other retired NBA players and associates, members of the mafia, and the charges range from running illegal sports books to running rigged poker games and basically scamming people out of literally millions of dollars to providing privileged player information to bettors or would-be bettors about None other than LeBron James, his availability, leaking information to would-be gamblers as to whether or not LeBron's going to play or what kind of shape he's in, and what should you do gambling wise as a result of that. What do you make of all this, Pez?
Well, the poker situation. Chauncey Billups, New York guy, all four of the major mafia families that still exist in the United States are implicated in this. And we're not going to name them, Coach. I don't need anybody knocking on my door. We don't want to help people out here. But the supposed wise guys, of course, they're still out there. I believe the numbers have been reduced by, probably by 75%. But there are wise guys out there. If there's action, there's hustlers, there's wise guys who are just trying to help themselves out, get an advantage. Now, at Pez's Picks, we do that with data. There are other ways to do it, Coach. So, this is part of the business. Gambling is not always legitimate. And with Chauncey Billups, these poker rooms, I've been to a number of them in Manhattan. They're run by different organizations, sometimes by different nationalities. There are European nationalities. Those games, those card rooms are not on the up and up. Generally, the more established wise guys run a clean game. There's no reason not to. The house is going to win anyway, but there's greed involved. Wise guys make bad decisions too. This is not something that the organized crime wants. This isn't something that's running a poker room that's not legal wants. I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy money. Somebody got greedy. Was Chauncey in over his head? Did he owe money? I don't know. Generally, a guy of his stature that gets involved in something like this, he owes somebody something, right? This isn't something the Hall of Fame guy is going to do unless he's under pressure. Apparently was recruiting people to go to some of these games. They had the rooms rigged, Coach. I never heard anything like it. It blows my mind a little bit. They had X-ray machines under poker tables, and they were giving the guys special contact lenses so they could see the cards. I never heard anything like this. How much money was stolen? I read about $7 million in this one game, probably bringing in friends of his. So probably a lot of other people involved. Is he getting a cut? I suppose. Is he just flaying his own money? Probably a little of both. A sad stain on poker. Out in the Wild West, Coach, you rig a poker game. They take you outside, they shoot you, and they take your horse, right? So I'm not saying that should happen to Chauncey or these guys, but this is an ugly situation. I think it's uglier than the actual potential point shaving or the guys sitting out from the injury. But these poker rooms exist. There aren't many casino games left anymore. I'm in Atlantic City a lot. I put a video out. The Tropicana's down to – they had one table going 2 nights ago, Coach. It used to be the biggest room in Atlantic City. They had one poker game going. Borgata's down to that room looks like the bathroom of a horse track at this point. I don't think another casino has a poker room. So people are playing in these organized, off the books rooms, and they're expecting a clean game. So I think there are a lot of angry people out there. I think there are a lot of angry organizers of these games, people that have been ripped off. And Chauncey Billups, I don't know what happens to him. How does he cooperate? When you're dealing with important people that have businesses in the billions of dollars, your life is in danger. You're putting your life in danger when you roll with wise guys. So I think Chauncey Billups, these guys have nowhere to hide at this point. I think they're going to have to hide with the feds. And I wouldn't be surprised if Chauncey Billups, he disappears. How does he testify and go about living a regular life when you're talking about some very powerful families that are still running some organized crime situations? The NBA, maybe this is a little political. I read today as well, LeBron, the commish, not big fans of the current president. This comes out a day after the season starts. This is an ongoing investigation. Jonte Porter got suspended about 2 years ago. So a lot going into this. And, we're going to pump the brakes on betting on NBA for a while, Coach. Let's see how this filters out. I think a lot of players are under some stress and probably playing in these games. And is it completely incredible that a player would text buddies, hey, LeBron's out, lay your money on this game? I might do that for you, right, Coach? I might tell you, a buddy of mine are going to play golf. A buddy of ours, we'll call him Bicho. I think we're talking a great golfer. I call you and go, hey, Bicho's got a busted elbow. Me and you were going to play. We still would have beat him. But, maybe that's what's going on a little bit. There was a specific game. I think that, this is why guys are getting caught. They have computers that pick up higher action, algorithms that pick this up and alerts it. 8 games, and one of them, I believe it was Rozier, he took himself out about 2 minutes in. There were $200,000 put against his under on points and rebounds and stuff. So that's a ridiculous amount of action to bet on a midseason game on the under of a player who goes out with a foot injury. So, that shame on them, coach. Shame on them. They played the game. They didn't play by the rules. They didn't cheat by the rules, and that's kind of disgusting behavior that puts a stain on a growing investment situation. $7 billion about 6 years ago in sports gambling. This year it's going to be $150 billion, and they got to get this cleaned up.
Here's the thing I don't get, Pez. You're Chauncey Billups. He's in the Hall of Fame. He won a ring. He won a championship as a player with the Pistons. He was the MVP of the NBA Finals. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's now a head coach in the league. What do you need this for? Terry Rozier, he's a multi-year veteran. He's made millions and millions of dollars. Now, I don't know what his exact financial situation is. Does he owe money to people? Has he squandered, his earnings, whatever it might be? But I mean, these guys are at the top of the world in their professions. Is it just, I don't know, is it boredom? Is it the thrill of a new hunt? I mean, what drives people to make these, because these are utterly stupid decisions. Chauncey Billups has now put himself in between the feds and organized crime. You're screwed, man. I don't know. I don't care who you choose to side with. There's no good choice there. Why would you risk it all when you've had that success in your life?
It's one of two things. I've had some association with people like this, coach, and it's tempting when you're offered what appears to be easy money, right? It's tempting to be offered a no-brainer money and to have this action. And when you're in the game, you look at people that might make bad bets or might sit down at a poker table that a couple guys are working together on. You look at them as marks that, they should have known better, right? Now, I'm not saying that's legitimate, but this is kind of the lure that people fall for. It's gangster stuff, right? So the NBA does have a connection to major cities, a little bit of a gangster element to it. And, you get caught up in the heat, maybe you make a bad decision, or you owe somebody something for numerous reasons. This could be for gambling debts. This could be for, bad behavior in a lot of different situations. And, I've heard of this as well. People get put on what they call put on the payroll. So you got to help out. We don't want to take your house. We don't want to hurt you, man. And, maybe that's part of it. Mismanagement of money, and the money is easy when you work, outside of the lines, and there is an organized effort to break the law. And these guys don't have anything to lose, coach. And I'm proud of myself. I never took that easy money. It's tempted when it's put in front of you. Hey, just, do this. It's $10,000 or so. You think for a second, but at the end of the day, you're dealing with a different element. People, Chauncey Billups, and these guys had a lot to lose. Gangsters, wise guys, they got nothing to lose. This is their life. This is the business they've chosen. They expect to get pinched once in a while. They expect violence. They expect this pressure. They've grown up in it. It's their job. It's not something they're doing for excitement on the side. So to them, it's a different situation. And they look at these things in a more calm, a more systematic way. And, at the end of the day, I'm worried about some of these NBA guys. There's a lot of heat. You don't beat the feds, though. The federal government is the most powerful mafia ever. You're looking at jail time. You're looking at death from the other side or some sort of violence. And I don't know. I'd hate to be Chauncey and these guys at this point. And you hate to think anybody having to go through it. Maybe they ripped off friends of theirs, and that's even worse to have to think about doing too.
Yeah. Our head coach here at Ocean City High School, Sean Matthews, who Pez affectionately calls the Bear. Sean likes to tell our defensive linemen, if you get off the ball and nobody blocks you, it's not Christmas morning. They're not just letting you run to the quarterback. It's a screen. It's a trap play. Nobody is just leaving you unblocked and letting you run to the quarterback. Something's up. And I think about that when I look at this situation. Like there was a local scandal for people who don't live in the South Jersey area. There was a local scandal that's still reverberating where some people got jammed up for false prescriptions, and you go to the doctor, you tell him you need this cream, he writes you a subscription for it, and then a couple weeks later you're going to get some cash in the mail. But that's the defensive lineman who comes off the ball and is unblocked. I mean, that's just too good to be true. Nobody gives you money for nothing. Similarly, Chauncey Billups, whatever, calls you up and says, "Come here, we're going to play in this game, and I guarantee you're going to win, and you're going to win a lot of money, but nothing's going to go wrong. Like there's not going to be any issue with it." Like, how do you not see that coming, man? Why do people fall for the the Nigerian prince who wants your bank account info so he can wire you $500,000? Why do people fall for this stuff?
Well, you do get caught up in the action. I played a lot of poker, decades in Atlantic City at a pretty high level. We caught people cheating. There'd be cards marked on the table. That would anger a lot of people. Speaking in foreign languages, nothing against foreign languages, Coach, but I don't speak them. So if you're talking a foreign language at my table to another guy that knows that and I don't, that's an advantage I'm not standing for. People do fall for these things. There's an atmosphere in the United States that's going on probably since, I don't know, the 70s or 80s, where if you could cheat a little bit, that's part of the game. And especially when we're talking gambling, we're talking money, we're talking, poker. People think helping yourself out is okay. I don't prescribe by that. I think that's a horrible thing to do, and I would never do that. Having said that, some of the nicest people, some of the most loyal people, some of the most fun people I've ever spent time with in my life were people from, the organized crime situation. And they were guys that liked to go out. They were social and loyal to the death. I mean, guys that I didn't know very well protected my wife and I in situations where, maybe we're in a dangerous crowd. You knew you were safe when you were with these guys, and when they told you something, generally that was true. So it's a business arrangement with dangerous people who are also loyal, and that's a bigger lure to somebody that's looking for easy money or needs money, right? And I feel bad for these guys. They probably got suckered a little bit, or they got in over their heads, and what do you do, right? What do you do? You got kids. You're looking at decades in jail, or you're looking at worse from the other situation, and I think the pins are going to fall. I think there's going to be a lot of NBA guys that are involved in this, and I think it's something that's gone on a long time. But having said that, it was cleaner. Prior to legal gambling, you could have called $200,000 in on Rozier's under for the day. No bookie would take that. Jeff Hartman and I do Pez's Picks podcast. He'll say to me, like, for the British Open golf, do you like John Rahm at 4,000 to 1? I go, of course I do. If anybody ever called that bet into me, I mean, are you out of your mind? You give nobody 4,000 to 1. 4,000 to 1, so he puts $10 on it. Nobody's paying out 40 G's to John Rahm. So I think this is part of the game's fault too. They open themselves up to this. There's too many prop plays. It's too easy to gamble and cheat now for players in the NBA. I don't think as much in the NFL, but the NBA, you're playing, 82 games? It's a game in January on a Tuesday in Toronto. You say to your buddies, hey, I'll make sure I don't get 10 rebounds. Boom, that's easy to do. That I don't think those are legitimate bets that should be on the board, and the more they put them on there, this is going to continue to happen. It's just going to. No legitimate, non-legal bookie would ever take bets like that. This was not something that was part of the biz. It was harder to fix a game. If Toronto's laying 5 to the Celtics, one guy might not be able to manipulate that line just as much as manipulating his own player stats. So I think the system's to blame for this a little bit as well. It got a little bit too greedy, and maybe we need to take control of that. That's why we don't get into that field of prop plays, Coach. Too risky, too unpredictable, too easy for one person to rig.
Well, you brought up Pez's Picks, so perfect time to pivot and talk a little bit about how things are going there. First of all, you just surpassed 100,000 Instagram followers, man. That's
killing it, Christian. Doing it the right
man.
way. We're picking winners. We're not fixing games. I'm not telling you JoJo Embiid's only going to have 5 rebounds, Coach. We're just picking winners. We're doing all right. The system's working so far.
Well, you're on a heater, man. You're what are you like 11-0-2 in your last 13
since we started Pez'sPicks.com, we're batting at 80% in college and NFL combined, 12-2-1. We don't like to gloat too much, though, Coach. We know this is a system that's not always going to hit at 80%. We try to get over 50%. That's going to be a win. So there are going to be good days and bad days, of course, and we've been hot the last 2 weeks. And I think part of that, we're midway through both seasons, college and NFL. You have a ton of data. You kind of know who teams are. The hard part's judging teams' data against strength of opponents that they've played. Are there Fugazi numbers in there? And that's something that I think has taken a little bit more of a skill. And the lines this time of year tell you something. Last week, we took the Bears and the Browns, and we won in the NFL. Two teams that aren't too hot, but situationally they were great plays, and the line told us that they had a good chance of winning. We're taking teams this week that have a similar advantage based on what the data says and based on what Vegas is setting these lines at. And that's something that a career gambler is going to look at a little bit differently than somebody else, where it's not always the name, it's a situation, scheduling, strength of opponent. Real proud of ourselves in Indiana over Oregon a week ago, Coach. What a game. I mean, that was a bet that I think only a real gambler is going to look at. Oregon, we're laying 7, I believe, and Indiana blows them out. Should have been about a 14, 20-point outright win. They win by about 10. So situationally, you get your money in when you can. Same thing with poker. It's a situational thing. You can't go all in on every play. We're proud of ourselves, Coach. We're going to try to keep it going. And, the NFL, I don't know. Not many good quarterbacks, right? This is an anthem of ours at Pez's Picks. There's not many good ones. Do bad quarterbacks have a good game here or there? They do. We're kicking ourselves tonight. Minnesota, LA Chargers. Chargers are 14-0. Carson Wentz, who I have a hatred for this man. I find him repulsive. He's uncoachable or stupid or a combination of both. I don't know which is which, but a disaster, an insult to the quarterback position. I don't know why we didn't lay money on him. I talked about it with Jeff. Sometimes when you're emotional about a player or a team, you got to contain yourself a little bit. I thought maybe I hate him too much. I didn't want to start my week off getting burned by a player I hated, but I'm kicking myself. We owe the family, we owe the followers one that we should have laid money on this guy against this guy.
No, you're right. Emotion is the enemy of reason, Pez. So you have to
absolutely
try to not bet or not coach or not even play from an emotional state. But you are right. We are far enough into the league year now where we're starting to get a feel for who some of these teams are, and we're far enough in where the analytics people have, they do their magic, and they've come out with a bunch of numbers that are giving you basically percentages on teams and their chances of making the postseason. So I'm gonna throw some teams out at you right now, and I'll give you their record, and then I'll give you their percentage that is being given by a lot of these metrics outlets as to their chances to make the postseason, and you tell me if you like them or don't like them as a postseason team. We'll start with the two teams playing tonight. Minnesota Vikings come into this game 3-3. You just said they're losing 14-0 as we record here. Prior to this game, just a 27% chance of the Vikings to make the playoffs. Do you think that they can rally, put this back together, or is their season probably done?
Well, we're not. It's not looking good for them tonight. So let's chalk them up to 3-4 right now. Next up, they're at the Lions, 3-5 in my opinion. Ravens, I think Lamar should be healthy. The Ravens can't be this bad. Maybe 3-6. Then they have the Bears, tough contest. This schedule's tough. Bears, Packers, Seahawks, Commanders, Cockroaches. And then they finish Giants, Lions, Packers. I'm going to be shocked if this team wins 5 more games. I don't think they make the playoffs. I think that's, in my opinion, that would be a bad bet to bet Vikings making the playoffs. I don't care if the rookie comes back. I mean, this guy's played, 2 games in his career, 3 games. I think a strong bet right now would be Vikings to not make it. We took them season total under 9.5, and we're feeling pretty comfortable about that, especially if they lose this game. I think 7-8 wins is about all that you could get the most out of Minnesota at this point. Tough schedule to end the season, and the team doesn't look too good. I mean,
that is a nasty schedule. All right, what about their opponents right now? LA Chargers 4-3 coming into Thursday night game. Again, as we record, looks like they're up by about 14. 59% chance to make the playoffs according to the model entering week 8. What do we think?
I've got them at about a 50-50 chance, to be quite honest with you right now. A team that's I don't love Herbert. I mean, he's played great this year. I got to give it to him. I find he's a little bit inconsistent. Their defense hasn't seemed as good. Their running game is in a horrific situation. I don't even know who the running back is. Is it Gore Vidal? Isn't he some sort of famous artist or writer coach? So Gore Vidal, 4th string. The guy went to Troy. You can't go to Troy and be a starting running back in the NFL year 2, Coach. So I think that's going to hold them back. After the Vikings, Titans, that's an easy game. Then they go Steelers, Jags, Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Tech. I think I think we're 50-50 right now. I'd say they're going to make it, though. I think they get to 9, maybe 10 wins. Then they're going, what, 6-3? Or no, we got 7, so maybe 6-4. I think they get there. I think they do. I think it's 50-50, but I think right now the Chargers do get there.
And then ultimately losing the first round like they usually
Absolutely.
do. So, all right, here's an interesting team that started off slowly, but the last 3 weeks has looked pretty good. 4-2, Chicago Bears, currently, according to the model, at 48%, but they have, over the last 3 weeks, increased their odds of making the playoffs more than any team in the league, according to the models over the last 3 weeks. Bears playing good football, 4-2. What do we think about the Bears?
Well, let's run down what their body of work is. They beat the Vikings, first game of the year. Decent win, even though it's a rook quarterback. They beat the Lions. They lost to the Vikings. That's a bad loss. They lost to the Lions. I mean, that's, you'd expect that. Then who have they beaten? They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Saints. 4 bad teams. So I think a little bit schedule has helped them this week. Very difficult week. Ravens, I'm not sure if Lamar has been announced yet. He wasn't practicing this week, but going to Baltimore, currently Baltimore, that they're laying 6.5, so that doesn't bode well for Chicago's chances. I don't love the quarterback. Looking at their schedule, they've got some tough teams on the road. I'm going to say no, they're not making it, Coach. They're not making it. I don't have faith in that quarterback yet. Footwork's bad. He's a small guy. He looks at the rush. You and I both know when you get that bad habit of looking at the rush, like Carson Wentz, you get pulverized in this league. Teams feed on that, and I think at the end of the day, that's going to hurt them. Their running game, I don't know if it's good enough to carry them, and their defense hasn't looked as hot against good teams as I would have thought. So I'm going to say no. Bears don't make the playoffs.
Okay. I'm with you on Caleb Williams. I'm not convinced. He's playing mediocre football against a weak schedule right now. I certainly think he'll improve with Ben Johnson as his head coach, but I'm just not sure. They might be a year away. Now, here's a team. I couldn't believe the percentage. I think a lot of it is based upon how easy their schedule is. But the New England Patriots at 5-2 are currently, again, according to the models being put out by Warren Sharp and Sumer Sports and some of these analytics people, 91% chance of making the playoffs. New England Patriots at 5-2. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you can't say enough about the coach, right? I mean, the guy's a winner. Vrabel's a man's man, and I think that bodes well for them. Schedule, not as hard as it possibly could be. Big game this week against the Browns. They get to 6 wins. Then we're looking at 8. They've got 9 games left, 6 wins. Then you got to go 4-5 to make the playoffs. You get to 10 wins, you probably make the playoffs, right? So, they win this week. They're at 6, and they have the Falcons, maybe 7. Bucks, we'll give them. Jets, they're at 8 wins. Then they've got the Bengals and Giants. We'll give them one more, 9 wins. Bills, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. I think 10, 11 wins we're looking at with this team. And I'd say, yes, they're making the playoffs. I like their chances. I like their defense. Quarterback's played pretty well for a kind of, halftime rookie guy here. So I'll give the coach the nod, and I think the Patriots win in a weak division.
Yeah, me too. I think the Patriots make the playoffs. I think that schedule is extremely manageable. I'd be shocked if they don't get to 10 wins.
Could win the division. I think that's a target. That would be a nice value bet to play right now. The Bills are starting. I think the Bills' choices have caught up to them. Running game's weak. Receivers aren't dynamic as some big names. At some point, Superman can't be beating Superman every year. I think it's catching up to him a little bit. I think Patriots have a good chance of winning that. They're going to have to beat the Bills to do it, though.
Yeah. All right, last one. We'll wrap the show on this one. Kind of fascinating. Baltimore Ravens are 1-5, and they have just a 5% chance to make the playoffs. However, they also have the 30th ranked toughest schedule remaining of the 32 NFL teams. So they have one of the easiest schedules. They're going to get Lamar Jackson back. If not this Sunday, then next Sunday. They're going to get healthier. 5% chance is at 1-5, almost impossible. But should we nail the coffin shut on them, or can you see Baltimore in a vulnerable AFC North, right? Because the Steelers lead the division, but they're not great. Can Baltimore rise from the almost dead?
Well, we go Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, next four, Jets, next five. It's five winnable games. I think, but it's going to be tough. They've got three on the road. I think they go 4-1, and then we're at 5-6. After that, they're going to be going Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Packers, Steelers. I think it's going to be tough, Coach. Two back-to-back road games to end. Does 10 wins get them in? Can they go 9 and so would that be 9-3? That's possible. It's possible, but it's not likely. I got them at about a 20% chance of making the playoffs. Yeah, I think they could get snuck up on with the Browns, maybe the Bengals, some weird game. I'm going to say they get to 9 wins. They don't get in. 9 wins doesn't get you in. They're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's music to my ears because I don't want the Ravens in the playoffs. But
no, who does?
That might be worth putting down like $20 on because you probably get great odds, right? To bet on the Ravens to make the playoffs right now, you'd probably get great odds.
Probably, and that's again, mid-season totals are tough. The schedule is set up to misbalance these things, right? The Bears started with the most pitiful schedule. They're going to end with a real one. I think the Ravens have a chance, but it's going to take Lamar doing ridiculous more stuff. And Travis Henry hasn't looked too great. Starting to look old. Maybe there's some left in the tank. Maybe there's pride. It's either that or it's over, right? I think Lamar moves on. Maybe a trade of sorts. I know they owe him a ton of money, but I think a team would be willing to take Lamar in a situation with good players. Maybe even in Cleveland, right? I don't know if their quarterback situation could get any more confusing, but a team that's got a nucleus like an Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, I think you could see Lamar making a move to somebody like that, and still having an impact. That guy, incredible player.
Yeah, he sure is. He just can't stay healthy, and that's obviously going to catch up to him at some point. Pez, great stuff, man. I mean, interesting topics today, and I will be fascinated to see how this Chauncey Billups poker / sports book scandal plays out and what will be the ramifications and the fallout from it. That's going to be a recurring story now that will follow.
Well, this isn't going to end, Coach. I have bad news for everybody. This isn't new. Did over our years, not in poker, I never thought cheating in cards. That's inappropriate. That's ungentlemanly, Coach. I never do that. But have I been given horse tips? Have I heard rumors about college games going back decades? Of course we did. Somebody's cousin knows something that tells somebody, that tells another cousin. It's part of the game. This is the most interesting thing I read today, that, we're at about $150 billion a year being invested in sports, being gambled, and legal sports betting, and illegal. In the next 10 years, that's going to top $1 trillion a year. And 1/3 of that's going to be illegal gambling. Illegal gambling is at this point as big as it's ever been because nobody's chasing it down. Nobody's chasing down, a small bookie because gambling's legal, and at the end of the day, it's kind of this, legal. That'd be like me going to your house, Coach. If you're growing grapes to make your own wine, and I bust you for not having, alcohol license, I buy a bottle from you. They're not doing it. So I think this is going to get worse, and I think the system should blame itself a little bit for this too. It's too easy for these guys, and I'm not condoning it, but it's too easy. We got to get back to wins and losses, Coach. That's what Pez's Picks does. We keep it wins and losses. These prop plays too much for us. We don't like them.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Even though I'm a sucker for the props, but I hear you. So. All right, Pez. Hey, Monday on the call sheet, it's my 200th show.
Wow.
And so,
that's syndication dollars there, brother.
200 shows, man. We're putting together a big retrospective. We're gonna put some stuff together and throw it up on YouTube and on my Twitter. Pez will be a big part of that. He's made many appearances on the call sheet. Probably our most frequent guest. So congratulations. A lot of perks come with being the most frequent guest on the call sheet, as you know.
We owe it all to you, Coach. You brought us here. You helped the people out by bringing us into this fold. We could talk about this now. We used to have to hide who we were in the gambling world. It's legal. I'm proud of ourselves for not being illegitimate, Coach. Shame on those guys. Shame on them. But, maybe we get some sort of cool song, kind of like a time to remember, maybe. Who knows, Coach? I can't wait for this video. Our tech guys, they'll be working all night on this. I can't wait. Maybe
That's
some
right.
REM song. I got a best of REM behind me. Maybe we'll get a little. I don't know, some Michael Stipe going, Coach. I can't wait.
Oh,
Congratulations, 200 shows. That's an impressive thing.
yeah, that's cool. I guarantee there'll be no Michael Stipe, no Michael Stipe.
Okay.
But I am
Okay.
I am excited to put it all together. So, all right, that's a wrap. So for Pez, and let's keep his hot streak going over there at Pez's Picks, and for Coach, myself here. Have a great weekend, everybody. NFL football on tap, and we'll be back on Monday to cover it all. Until then, take care. Enjoy.